How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and it's February 8th, 2025 for our latest Mets update segment, because we're doing a complete deep dive on Brandon Sproat, the Mets' top prospect when looking at the starting pitching position. One of the best in all Major League Baseball has officially touched down in Port St. Lucie, as you guys see beside me, and we're going to deep dive not only how good Sproat is looking in the early goings of spring training, but what are going to be massive expectations in 2025, not only for himself personally, but also his potential impact on the Mets right away here throughout the 162. From there, we will get into Mr. OMG himself and Jose Iglesias, where things currently stand with himself and the Mets on a potential reunion, further piggybacking off of our video yesterday on how both Iglesias and Canna can return to the Mets this offseason. Check that out in case you guys haven't already, because reporting has come out since then, further reaffirming that yes, when it comes to Iglesias and the Mets, the bridge is not officially closed, it has not been burned. There is still a route where they can find themselves rekindling, and from there, we're also going to get into Dylan Cease, everybody. What is going on with his trade market? What is AJ Preller asking, and where do the Mets stand in potentially bringing in someone like him? As the Mets did, in fact, bring in a reliever today on the minor league front, so that and much more is what we'll deep dive. Make sure to smash a like and subscribe on as your first chime in, and let me know your initial reactions to it all in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much, as always, from hearing from our amazing sponsor that plenty of you guys know very well here at BetUS, which has you covered with all your sports betting needs. You guys know the drill by now. Head over to betus.com.pa today and use Wardy's promo code YouTube50. That way YouTube will get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for whatever you want to bet on. And folks, we have a two-leg parlay for both today and tomorrow. Super Bowl Sunday is almost here, but in the meantime, my New York Knicks, I love them there as the money line underdog to take them on the spread at plus 4.5 to make sure that they either win outright at home at the Garden against the Celtics, or to make sure that they don't lose more by 4.5 points. I'm pairing that with the Chiefs to win outright there, minus 150 on the money line over the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Even though I really don't have any favorites as a Steelers fan, I'm pretty much, neutral in this one. I'm not a lover on either side of the spectrum here. This is going to be a $50 parlay that can win me $125 roughly. So good luck to anyone that tails these bets, but please know I am a diehard sports bettor, but I am not a sports betting expert. Just a diehard fan that loves to place daily bets here at BetUS. So we're going to hammer that bet, place it down, get it done, and there we go. To good luck to everybody once more, folks. But now let's get into the latest here that we see having to do with what is going on with, yes, Brandon Sproat. And this has me very excited, as I alluded to already, everybody, as you guys see from the Brandon Sproat highlights right here beside me, he is looking oh so good to kickstart the year. Not only is he looking swaggy because he got the mustache going, he's got the little bit of the flow in the back going. Again, he's professional up front, party in the back. This is what you like to see, baby. Nice little zoom in on Brandon right there. Sproat, the 24-year-old towering right-handed pitching prospect for the Mets, is expected to have a massive 2025 campaign. And this is all thanks to Sproat in over 100 innings this past season, went all the way from single A to triple A, folks. He skyrocketed, soared through the minor leagues for the Mets, just like Jonathan to a certain degree, and they both have lofty expectations here in 2025. Sproat, who posted right around a 3.4 ERA to over 10 K per nine to right around a 3 or so walks per nine, a tremendous K to walk ratio that we saw there, everybody. And what does that further mean? It further means that, yeah, Brandon Sproat is going to impact the Mets as soon as this season. He was asked actually towards the end of his 2024 campaign, where he got a little bit of a sample size with the Syracuse Mets at AAA. Didn't have too much success with them, but he's looking to build off of that and what's going to be a big start to the year in 2025. David Stern said it himself that he'll begin the year in AAA barring changes, as he did a recent interview there that we saw over 20 minutes long. I think it was with either MSNBC or someone along those lines, and I apologize. CBS actually, I think, is who might have found it, and pardon me, might have actually been. But in the case of Brandon Sproat, he was asked in interviews last year towards the end of the season if he was called upon to make his debut in playoffs for the Mets as a reliever, would he do it? His response was absolutely, you would consider doing that. Brandon Sproat is a high flyer, guys. Not only does he have a devastating breaking off-speed pitch, especially when you look at the slide piece, but you have a guy that has a fastball that touches the triple digits. That's what makes us so exciting about a guy like Brandon Sproat. How he plays up is a big time. Obviously, the slider and the fastball, they all need work as we head into the 2025 season, and that's why I fully expect him to kickstart things probably in AAA more than anything else. But to see how much he dominated this past season is telling that the Mets have big expectations for him in 2025, and there's a great reality where he could be cracking this Mets rotation within the first month or two of the season. That's how good he is. That is how elite his stuff is. That is how much stuff plus is going on when you look at the entire arsenal. When it comes to him, it's really just about getting more reps at the professional level there that we see in AAA with the Syracuse Mets. Once he gets a couple starts out there, I think we're going to see him caught up before we know it, because in a six-man rotation makes more sense than ever to consider a guy like Brandon Sproat, who has ace caliber stuff. That is how good he is. That is how elite of a prospect he is. And that's exactly why the Mets are stubborn from considering to trade away a guy like Brandon Sproat, because he's one of the best pitching prospects in all the game currently, as a lightning rod in what you're getting from that arm there. Not only the velocity, but the off speed of breaking pitches. Again, he's a 2-3-4 pitch mix type guy, and we're going to see him work further on that slider, further on the change, further on the fastball and the shape of it throughout the course of 2025, but especially with Desi Drewskull and with everyone else in company, Germany, Haffer, you name it, everyone in this pitching lab. I really think the Mets are going to try their best and actually get the best out of a guy like Brandon Sproat, who's going to absolutely light up the lamp. Mind you guys, for context, Brandon Sproat was putting up some of the best strikeout numbers that we've seen all in the minor leagues last season at a ridiculous rate, and he was joined with guys like Christian Scott, who was also dominating, putting up numbers that other than Paul Skeens, no one was doing at the minor league level last year. Christian Scott won't be back with the Mets pretty much until the end of the season, coming back from reconstructive Tommy John surgery. And for Brandon Sproat, he's looking to make a name for himself there as a true starting option and what's going to be a really interesting six-man that the Mets are rolling out this year. And how the Mets go about their six-man will be all the more interesting to see what happens on the Dylan Cease front, everybody, because this is a perfect transition into talking about what is going on with Dylan Cease as market, and then we will talk about Mr. OMG himself there, Jose Iglesias, because guys, we have talked endlessly about the Dylan Cease trade rumors for the past week and a half here on the platform, and one thing has been constant. Dylan Cease has been in the rumors, but the likelihood of him being traded, especially to the Mets, is not necessarily a strong one at this point in time. Now, as we broke down in our video yesterday and how the Mets bringing in Iglesias and Canna actually makes a trade for Cease a bit more likely, and I stand by that because it makes more players expendable on the roster that would be here, including guys like Luis Angel Acuna, Jet Williams, and Brandon Sproat. And that brings us to our great discussion here, everybody, because when we look at Dylan Cease, we know he's an ace caliber starter. We know that if the Mets are able to bring in a starter like him, he is easily one of, if not probably the best option that they have among their current limited options in both the free agent and trade market. And as you guys can see from the numbers down below, and 1 year remaining at just under $14 million with the San Diego Padres, and just under 190 innings this past season, a 3.47 ERA, a 3.31 expected ERA, just over a 1 whip, 224 strikeouts, a 10.6 K per nine to a 3.1 walks per nine. We know how good he is as a strikeout machine. He sits 97 to 100 on the fastball, which is just oh so deadly. We love that break. I love his curveball, especially. It's one of my favorite pitches in the game from NL starters eligible. You look at the 5-6 pitch mix that you're getting in Dylan Cease, and he is an absolute thing of beauty. This is a guy that can carry you deep into the postseason and pair really nicely with Kodai Singh and what he can provide, hopefully in a healthy 162, with Shamanaya, with David Pearson, with Clay Holmes, with Frankie Montas, and that right there is one of the more formidable and really more lethal not only lineups but rotations in all the National League. Not the best, obviously, but one of the better ones there. It can really play up more so with teams like the Phillies, like the Dodgers to a degree, like the Braves to a degree, obviously, among others. But Dylan Cease, the reason why we're talking about him today, folks, is because of the trade ask. We've talked about over the past couple of days how there are rumblings that obviously the AJ Preller and the Padres are seeking 3 top 25 prospects. That was reported by Pat Ragazzo, doing a great job on the beat for the Mets as of late. And since then, we've heard names like Acuna, Sproat, and Williams all thrown out there. Well, apparently, those are all the names that AJ Preller has heavy interest in. Obviously, I cannot see a world where it makes any sense to trade away even a Brandon Sproat. Can I live with it if you extend Cease? Yes, I absolutely can. But it would still sting so much to trade away a lethal pitching prospect for what is a surefire guaranteed thing to help you win now and Cease, but to give up that entire future on Sproat, who's only 24 years of age, would be hard to stomach. In the case of guys like Acuna and Williams, that becomes more logical if you bring back these veteran guys like Jose Iglesias especially, where yes, you get hurt in the long term on the Acuna front, but how Cease impacts you now, and if you extend him for maybe the next 3, 4, 5+ years, that can be an ace caliber option for you amongst the best out of all the National League. So again, you have to give to get at the end of the day, but AJ Preller, he's smoking something, all right, because he wants something big. When I say he wants something big, folks, as you guys see beside me, the Padres asked about infielder Jordan Westburg and top prospects Samuel Basallo and Kobe Mayo there from the Baltimore Orioles in a potential trade. Now, as we know, the Orioles have one of the deepest farms in all the, not only the American League, but American League, Major League Baseball as a whole. There we go, Tyler. Finally got that tongue twister done. We know how deep the Orioles are when it comes to their farm. We know how much they could utilize an ace-caliber starter, and it would make sense for the O's, who are going to be stubborn in spending yet again, even with new ownership, which is just a shame on their front office more than anything. But they're not going to spend. They're going to go after rental starters, just like they did for Corbin Burns a year ago. They know exactly what it kind of takes for a Corbin Burns type starter, which is what Dylan Cease finds himself in the category of, you could rightfully argue, in similar trade value. So this is not out of the realm of possibility for the Orioles, and doing this for a rental starter of Cease's caliber. But for AJ Preller, it's hard to envision, again, teams wanting to give up this deep of an ass, this high of an ass, I should say, for someone who's a rental in Dylan Cease. As good as Dylan Cease is, because this is pretty much the equivalent of the Mets having to give up Brandon Sproat, Jet Williams, Luis Angel Acuna type prospects, and it's hard to envision seeing the Mets doing it at this point in time, up until maybe they bring in Iglesias and or Canna. And again, check out that video in case you're wondering, Wardy, how it all does that make sense? Don't worry, I broke it down for you greatly in that video for each and every one of you. But when it comes to the Mets and adding another starter, that feels vital. Brandon Sproat, I think, can be that lethal option for them. I think he will blossom for them throughout the course of the year, but not necessarily right away. Even with the oohs and ahs, he will inevitably find a lot of Mets fans, including myself, saying throughout the course of spring training this year, I still expect him to start the year in AAA barring changes. Dylan Cease is an ace caliber starter. If you can land him, you absolutely have to go out of your way to try to make it happen. Even with a team like the Padres and AJ Preller trying to win now in 2025, there are routes where it can be win now trades and win-win trades for both sides. I think the Mets can make that happen, but will they make that happen is a great question. As if the Baltimore Orioles are going to be reluctant, obviously the Mets and David Stearns are going to be equally, if not more, reluctant to part ways with a farm that isn't as deep as a team like Baltimore's as well. Currently ranked in the top 10 and top 12, depending on who you're talking about, that being the Mets farm, not the Orioles, everybody. So to go from Dylan Cease, now let's pivot into talking about Mr. OMG himself, everybody, because we did see some reporting that did come out fairly recently as well. And as you guys can see up here, this was from John Heyman's article over the past, day or so. MLB notes the qualified offer is hurting free agents Glenny Pete Alonso, Bregman, Cease, Mets prospects trade bait, in case you missed it. And in said article, he did make a note that the Mets haven't completely ruled off a reunion with, yeah, you guessed it, Jose Iglesias. And guys, as we touched on yesterday, and I'll reaffirm it again, this feels like a foregone conclusion similar to Pete Alonso, where I will be surprised if Jose Iglesias is in a uniform not named the Mets, because even after Jose Iglesias actually denied the Mets a contract offer, the Mets offered him reportedly a one-year deal, to which he said no while he's seeking a one-year deal. So clearly they were off there on the AEV. I'm not sure exactly how much Jose is going to get, even as a Scott Boras client, because of course he is. The Mets just got done with a grueling negotiation with a more impressive bat between the two and Pete Alonso when he's right. But here's the importance of Jose Iglesias, folks. He was a more valuable player than Pete Alonso last season, the regular year, right? We're looking at a 137 WRC plus, roughly 40% better than the average batter in baseball last season, Jose Iglesias. You look at a clip of 337, 381, 448 for a 2.5 WAR, right around 0.5 WAR higher wins above replacement, and how much he himself accounted for actually wins as a player. He had a higher WAR than Pete Alonso last season. So if we exclude playoffs and those heroics by Pete, obviously, Jose was a more valuable player in the regular season in an 85-game sample size. And it's hard to envision Jose Iglesias having the type of aura, the OMG-type vibes again, with another organization not named the Mets. This feels like a perfect pairing. The Mets are in need and are looking for a utility infielder still. Nick Madrigal's on a split contract for a reason. He doesn't get a job done as a true option. There's 27 years of age. He has upside. He certainly has more defensive upside, you could argue, than Jose, but he doesn't have the bat-to-ball skills nearly as well. Jose impacts the Mets now. He's a perfect mentor for the kids, and Acuna, Mauricio, Williams, what have you, makes some of these kids more expendable if the Mets really want to trade for a key starter like a Cease, like a Kane, like a Castillo, like a Lopez from the Twins, or someone else that we haven't talked about to this point. All I know is that Jose Iglesias, the vibes are immaculate, and he just wants a little bit more money. So if we're not even apart on years where he doesn't doesn't want a multi-year deal. Apparently, he still wants a one-year deal, knowing he's a veteran infield utility option at the age of 35, and knowing he might be in a more limited role for the Mets next year. If he can buy into it as the selfless player that he has been in years past, like Jesse Winker's buying into the selfless role that he will have for the Mets in any way, shape, or form that they ask in 2025, that is the recipe for success. Bring back Mr. OMG on a one-year deal, more along the lines of maybe what he's asking, maybe you reach more in the middle there with Scott Boras. Just get the job done, guys. Even with him having a lesser role next year, with hopefully a guy like Acuna more blossoming at the second base position. Hopefully a guy like Acuna, if he's not traded, or Mauricio, could play their way into really being more everyday players in those positions over McNeil, over Iglesias, but they have to prove their worth. To have a guy like a veteran like Iglesias makes things 10 times better. He's a clubhouse personality that's so important. JD Martinez just did an interview with Joel Sherman and John Heyman of the New York Post. Check it out if you guys haven't already. And he said how much Iglesias was needed and was vital in really them turning their season around. When he got called up from the minor leagues, JDM was a heavy advocate in making that happen, because when JDM got here, right away, Carlos Mendoza asked, what can we do to get better here? What can we change? And he said, bring up Iglesias. He is a vibes difference. He will be a difference maker there. Then you see the song that they jokingly played, that JDM was jokingly first played after, Iglesias got called up, and the rest is history. The Mets made millions off of marketing off of it. Iglesias probably made some nice sponsor deals out of it too, and it's just a relationship that should rekindle itself, because there's really no valid reason for it not to. Nick Madrigal is not a reason for him to not come back, because he's not blocking anything. He's not on a guaranteed contract, and even if he was, you could still DFA him. When you look at Jared Young as another infield utility option, he's a guy that you can easily cut, especially if bringing in Mark Canha, who can fill in those first base reps as a backup first base option for Alonso. Canha had 50 games at first base last year, but again, check out that content in case you didn't already from yesterday. I digress on Jose Iglesias. Just bring the man back. What else are we talking about here, folks? Because before I let you out of here for our latest, Mets update segment get into, I've had a lot of tongue ties today, and the main reason why, folks, is mainly because I usually label these big Mets update segment, but because none of these are enough to, in my opinion, warrant to have the start of it, it's tongue tying me. It's kind of throwing me off when I'm going back to talking about the title itself. So I apologize for that. That's why I try to separate the two when they're big Mets updates, in my opinion, versus when they're just New York Mets updates in general. They might be big depending on who you're talking to. Some people think some things are completely irrelevant, while others think that they're the most important thing imaginable. But now let's get rid of that, and now let's get into the final things that we've seen as of today, and that is going on with the Mets signings, folks. We're going to go down here just a minute to see him. Okay, as you guys can see right here, the Mets bring in Andrew Carson, who will be beginning the season probably in either high A or double A for the Mets. Andrew Carson, who's kind of a side-arming right-hander option that you guys can see there. And 34 innings, posted just over a 1 ERA, a 32 strikeouts to 11 walk ratio there that we saw. Sign a minor league deal with the Mets there. Again, fastball sits right around there, 93, but has some nice late movement, and there has been a lot of exciting intrigue with this kind of pickup for a guy in Andrew Carson the Mets picked up. Why? Because he has been working that we have seen with not Driveline, but with Tread Athletics. And like Driveline, Tread Athletics, they're very similar and getting the best out of pitchers. That's why the Mets have their own pitching lab. It's essentially this, right? Just working with the newfound information, getting the best out of these guys. His fastball is now sitting 94 to 96 and topping out at 97, and he's looking like he's going to have himself a potential monster year there in the minor leagues for the Mets. A side-arming action that is really intriguing to see the Mets bring him in there. He had 5 saves this past season, 2 for the University of Tampa, for context as to where the Mets are getting him from. And my guy, Isaac Groffman, who's been an awesome pitching contributor on the platform, had this to say about him. Really intriguing arm. The Mets sign near sidearm release, sitting mid to high 90s with flashes of an outlier VAA. Delivered strong results at both D1 Michigan State and D2 U Tampa. 2023 MSU slider stats: 31.5% chase rate, opponent XWOBA of 223, and an opponent expected slugging of 235. So strong numbers there. We'll see how he transitions there to the professional level, but happy to have you aboard here. Andrew Carson is the latest minor league pickup for the Mets as he's thrown in the lab, and we'll see what he does there. Maybe he'll get a call up as soon as this or next season if he really starts to blossom there in the minor leagues. But that'll do it for your guy, Wardy. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed our latest New York Mets update segment. And if you guys found yourself enjoying the content, smash a like and subscribe on your way out of here, and let us know in the comments down below your biggest takeaway from all the topics that we found ourselves discussing. For Brandon Sproat hype, how excited are for you? What are your current expectations for Sproat for the 2025 season? Jose Iglesias, Dylan Cease, and a whole lot more. Thank you guys again. Let's go Mets, baby. I'll talk to you all again real soon. Peace out.